Yo, what's going on, guys? Koi here. Now, today we are going to be talking about Android 17 in Dragon Ball GEKISHIN SQUADRA, and how do you actually get this guy to be absolutely broken, or how do you be the best supportive teammate in the entire game? Now, we're going to be talking about strategy and build guides, so I hope you guys enjoy the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe. It really helps out the channel and keeps me going on these videos. If you want me to do your character next, just let me know down in the comments below, and I'll get to him the second I buy him or the second I can get to him. Yeah, I'm going to try to do 3 characters a day, but let's see what happens. It takes a lot of work. So let's get into Android 17. So if you guys do not know, Android 17 is a technical character. He is one of the most defensive characters in the game, I would say. And it's mostly because he has massive amount of resistance, which is really, really cool. But let's go ahead and talk about his skills and his passive. So infinite energy is probably one of the craziest passives, and I think if this was in like Android 18's arsenal, thanks for the sub, Atomic. If what do you call it? If this was in Android 18's arsenal, she would be #1 in the game, hands down. But this obviously was given to Android 17. And we'll talk about the difference between the two, because I know you're like, okay, one character is like, they're both androids, how come they have different passives? And it's because hers has to do with something completely different, more of a PvP style tactic. But with this one, right, Android 17's version is actually way cooler in my opinion. Freaking, this one allows you to reactivate your skills, but not just that, enhance some of your skills using extra energy if you use it on them. Now, the way it works is, let's say you use a skill or a skill in general. It's going to shoot out the skill, but it's going to give you the option to shoot out the skill twice. And some of these skills actually change based off of how you shoot them out. And I've seen many use cases, and I think you could play a very aggressive Android 17 or an incredibly defensive Android 17, but you can't really do both. And I'll explain why that is, and which playstyle really matters to you the most. And we'll talk about that when we start talking about the last skills and the builds and everything else like that. So let's go ahead and get into the last thing I wanted to talk about for infinite energy. Now, the thing about infinite energy is that it actually increases the cooldown rate of infinite energy, or increases the cooldown speed, my bad. Cooldown speed or rate, either way, it's the same thing. The more skills you have on cooldown, which is crazy because that means you could throw out all your skills and then still have like another one in the pocket even after using your energy. So don't be afraid of using your energy. And I'm going to give you guys plenty of use cases as we talk about each of the skills. His rush attacks, they're relatively basic blast attacks. Cancels transformations of energy heroes. It is kind of cool that you could do that, but it has such a niche use case that your energy attacks don't have anything special. And the thing is, what's so cool about Android 17 is that I think he has a lot more resistance than people really think he does, because he could stay in the fight spamming his rush attack a lot longer than some people, and really be more annoying to some characters like Vegeta, who can't really get to him as easily as he'd like to. Same thing with like Goku, and same thing with like other characters that require to be close to you. He could really just keep backing away and using these rush attacks, and they do a lot of damage. Now, Barrier Ball. This is probably my favorite skill in Android 17's kit because it looks like trash, but it depends on the way that you think about it. Because if you guys do not know how this skill works, it shoots out a barrier ball that will turn the enemy's debuffs into the status effect, into debuff status affliction, which is pretty crazy. So it could convert it into like, depending on how many debuffs that they have, so to speak, it'll flip the debuffs back at them. I mean, how many buffs the character has, it will flip those buffs into debuffs. But the cool part about using this with Energy Reactor, you can also dish this out twice, doing a massive amount of additional damage depending on how many debuffs the enemy actually has. Now, the way that this works, right? You could pair this with Frieza. You could pair this with Krillin. You could pair this with Zamasu. You could pair this with Bojack. You could pair this with, who's another good one? There's a lot of good ones that have debuffs. Oh, cooler. So anyone who's like running like any types of like debuffs on the enemy, you could throw in that second one and do a fat chunk of damage. And I have plenty of use cases for that, honestly. If you wanted to play an aggressive Android 17, we'll talk about how that can work in a minute. But yeah, so with this, obviously it literally just turns their buffs into debuffs, and I think this is going to be a real power up killer. Like, let's say someone starts stacking buffs and they're really, really good. Turn those buffs into debuffs. Now he's much weaker, and you could take advantage of him. And it's pretty crazy that you could do that with this skill. And I think it's a very, very powerful and broken skill. People just don't use it enough because they want to play more passive, and we'll talk about that later. So Barrier Knuckle. Barrier Knuckle's very broken. I love it. It applies movement speed down to the enemies on hit, and it staggers the enemy if you use it for the second time using the energy reactor. Now the thing is, this is like an absolute lockdown. If someone's running away, you stop them, you hit them with the movement speed down, you wait, you hit them again, or with a barrier ball. Like, this is the combo, right? Hit them with the movement speed down, then barrier ball, then hit them with the stagger, then hit them with the ultimate, and they die instantly. It's absolutely insane. Android 17 is far more powerful than people think, and it's much scarier to meet him on the field than most characters in the game because of the fact that he just really can stay in there. He has longevity, he has power. You just need to know how to utilize this power, and his combos are absolutely insane. The more you actually play him, the more you understand his kit. Android Barrier. Now, this one is just straight up helping out your friends. Apply movement speed with infinite energy reactor if you want to, but this depends on the way that you want to play. If you just want to use barrier one time and then play aggressively, or you could change the entire early game by popping barrier first, giving your opponent who's like a Goku, people who struggle with like damage off rip. I mean, people who struggle with healing off rip, like Goku, Android 18, a lot of characters who just have a really low HP at the beginning of the match and can be really shut down easily. You can keep them in the fight for even longer. Now, the thing is, this does require your teammate to actually be a little more competent, and for your opponent to actually trust you. Because if you shoot it twice with infinite energy, you get movement speed up, allowing you both to get out of sticky situations, or even to push your teammates to chase the enemy if you're on the up and up. So really use this skill as supportive as you possibly can, and you'll understand more and more as you do it, as you play the game, because this could either be the best chase move in the entire game or the best defensive runaway in the entire game. It could be either or. But of course, I'll talk about those when we talk about the cards, because the cards are the most important part about Android 17's build. Counter Barrier. This is broken. Now, the reason why it's broken is not what you think. Because you would think, oh, if I just pop this if I'm low, or pop this when I'm running away, yes, you can. But there's a trick to this. You could stop them from healing. This shuts down Majin Buu. This shuts down tower canceling. This shuts down a lot of characters that rely on healing, like Baby, and it just shuts them down entirely. This can really just shut down your entire kit. Like, shut down the entire kit of the enemy, depending on who you're fighting. He is an amazing counter pick against healing heroes who require healing in order for their kit to be good. Now, the thing about this is it also creates the barrier, and you cannot use infinite energy reactor with this, sadly. But the cool part is the less HP you have, the more damage you receive, and the more damage you do, and you also help your teammates not die as well. So you could literally just it's not really a counter, I would say that it's more of like a overshield that you can put on everyone around you and also do damage back. But I wouldn't say it's a counter, because you don't really do more damage based off of the character or the damage that you're receiving, more along the lines of how much HP do you have left. That's a bit of a misrepresentation of the skill. I don't know why it's called counter barrier when truly the barrier itself does not counter. You have to use it more like either a last resort or a absolute shutdown to people who are trying to out heal you. But yeah, that's just how that works. Let's talk about cards. Android 17 is a very complex character and has very complex needs. but it really just depends on what do you plan on using. Now, the thing is, you can use something like Lightning Swift. This is actually a fantastic card for a damage. Oh, actually, let's talk about what is the best selfish use for Android 17. The most selfish use for Android 17 is probably by building a damage stacking build. Now, the thing is, there's also some cards that you could set up just in case, but we'll talk about that right now. So first things first, if I were to do damage, I would do Snowball. Why? Because you get assists like crazy. Keep in mind, anytime that you give your characters a buff or you throw a debuff, or you're going to be engaged in every single fight no matter what. So getting this buff is going to allow you to take over the game as quickly as possible, and also allow your spheres and your energy balls to do a crap ton of damage on impact, including if you have those stacks of debuffs already on the enemy, you do now even more damage, and it's absolutely insane. The other thing I would like to say is Prepare to Die is interesting and could be a really good closer if you just want to be that guy to like try to close the fight as quickly as possible, or you know the enemy's going to keep trying to come after you and you just want to do as much damage as quickly as possible. But for both builds, I do recommend Solid Barrier. Now, the reason why I choose Solid Barrier, even out of Iron Skin, is because Solid Barrier will keep you from taking very significant damage. Because keep in mind, you're not going to be in everyone's face doing M1s like Vegeta, like Goku, like a lot of characters in the game that require you to be up in their face. You're going to be poking, you're going to be debuffing, you're going to be buffing, you're going to be moving back and forth. You might even need to run away from time to time, just because you ran out of teammates. But Solid Barrier, I would say, is probably the best choice for both defensive and offensive Android 17. Now, if you do want to be, obviously selfish Android 17, you could really get away with using Pursuer. I don't think that Wicked Warrior works very good on Android 17. It just doesn't. But Pursuer works fantastic because you could chase the enemy, double tap your ball skill or double tap your uppercut skill, and you do a crap ton of more damage. You're catching up to them. You're boosting your speed. All right, now let's talk a little bit more about the support type build that I do enjoy for Android 17. And it's entirely supportive because you're going to be using Build Up. Build Up, obviously, defense up all, every single time you KO some NPCs. This card has always been the best defensive card in the entire game because you're just stacking and stacking and stacking. It's fantastic. Nothing to worry about. Done. Barrier, like I said, we just talked about it. Keeps you from like getting locked down and keeps you out of the fray. Guardian Angel. Now, the reason why I choose Guardian Angel for a supportive role, and it literally just has to do with the fact that you can take the damage for all your nearby heroes. That's the thing. So in team fights, you could be the absolute clutch up using all your defensive skills, all your overhealing, and then the more people within your area also get, reduce the amount of damage received to you, but you're also taking all the damage received to the enemy, from your allies to, really just defend them all. And I think Android 17 is the best example of doing this, next to probably Kid Gohan. Well, I hope this video helped you guys out. If you guys liked it, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell down below. I'll see you guys later in a future video. Take it easy, and peace.